Every marketer knows that the best marketing hits at the emotions of your buyers, hits at what they're feeling, what they're concerned about, what their fears are, what their dreams are, what their aspirations are. And every marketer knows it, yet very few marketers produce content that actually map directly to those emotions. And today, I want to show you how you can use AI to hit there in a way marketers have never really been able to do so before, at least not until now. So welcome back to the AI-Driven Marketer. Today, I want to show you how I used AI tools to put out a full music album. Now, I want to say this music album is not related to marketing yet. It was a test to see what I could actually do to produce, to get an album out there that I could then start to use the idea for it to enhance the marketing I'm actually doing. So I actually created a full album around my faith. I am a Christian, and I produced an album called Psalter workout music. It is essentially taking the Psalms from the Bible and then turning them to music in a raw and energetic way so that myself and other Christians can use this in their workout flows and actually have something, really positive and reinforcing to listen to. But I wanted to show this as a case study of what's now possible for marketers with just a general rough sense of musicality and in video in order to create better content. Because now that I've done this test project, my brain's churning with all the ways I can use this for actual marketing endeavors. So stay tuned to the end when I'm going to share how I plan to use this in marketing and the ways you can use it too. But before I get into all the different ways this is actually going to be helpful, I want to show you exactly what this album looks like and then how, step by step, how I made it come into reality. So I'm going to open up my screen. If you are joining me in audio, just know I'll be talking through the whole process and you'll be able to hear the music here. But if you want to join on video, you could just open this up. If you open up this whole thing on Apple Podcasts, or you can actually watch the video on Apple Podcasts, or you can join me on YouTube or on AIDrivenMarketer.com to get the video version of this episode. So I'm open here on YouTube where I've uploaded a whole playlist for Psalter. And again, it's 8 tracks, 7 different Psalms, and 1 passage from 2 Timothy. And let me just play a little sample here to show you how, and then I'm going to break it down exactly the process I went through in order to create this. But first, let me hit play. I think you'll be how good this is, considering I'm literally just throwing a psalm from the Bible, which is music, but it's translated from Hebrew and it's coming into English, which music doesn't always translate well as the rhymes are lost, all that different kind of stuff. I mean, it's from thousands of years ago. So just know that this wasn't made in English in order to be a song, but AI is so good at turning it into music that it ended up becoming good to listen to. Listen along here. We go. Here.
I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, deliverer, my God, my rock, where I take refuge, my shield, my defender, my tower. Worthy of praise is the Lord whom I call on. He rescues me from all my foes. The waves of death broke about me. Fearful floods of chaos, Sheol threw cords around me. Snares of death came to meet me. In distress I cried to the Lord and shouted for help to my God. In his temple he heard my voice, into his ears came my cry. Then the earth shook
and that's just a little preview. If you want the whole album and listen to all the others, I'll drop a link in the description if you're interested in that. But again, this isn't about the Bible. It's not about Psalms. It's about being able to take a bunch of different elements and mash it together into something that's really fun and engaging and easy to listen to. And again, at the end of this episode, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to be using this as a marketer. I just put this album together to kind of test it out and to get something out there, something honestly I wanted. But now I'm going to walk you through the process of how I brought this to life. So let's dive into it. For starters, if you need songs, you need lyrics. I actually got my lyrics straight from an open source Bible project because, companies spend a lot of money to translate the Bible into different ways, and I found one that was just public domain, a modern translation. I just took, here's Psalm 18, it's that song we just listened to, and I literally just threw this into the AI app to use as the song. For you might want to think about what kind of lyrics you want. Luckily, ChatGPT is freaking really good at coming up with song lyrics. In fact, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you might have noticed I had a preview of a song that somebody had made with really awesome lyrics I can't remember the topic of the song, but like the lyrical ability of ChatGPT 4 with its new creative update, it just got a few weeks ago, is actually pretty strong, especially if you know how to ask for what type of lyrics or what type of song, if you want more ambiguity into it, or if you want it to be more straightforward, playful, whatever it is that you want. ChatGPT or any of the other AI tools really can craft really solid lyrics. So think about the lyrics you want in the song, or even if you just want it to be instrumental, it can do instrumental too. So I have my lyrics here. Then I went to this app, and I actually just paid for this app. I paid for a whole year's worth. I got it as a Black Friday deal. This is one of the AI tools that I plan on using regularly now, because now that I've gone through a whole album's worth of music with the Psalms here, I feel pretty comfortable with it, and I've paid my dues and learned how to use it. But let me show you a little bit about how it works. It's called Suno.com, and there are some other AI music tools out there. I'd find that this one's my favorite right now because it just does really good on the first pass, and it gives me really long. Some of the other music tools only give you 30 seconds to 60 seconds at a time, and then you have to extend it. This one just gives you like a full 4 minutes, and you're just kind of like, come on. It has some really cool abilities. This isn't going to be an in-depth tutorial on Suno. There's plenty of those on YouTube. I'm just going to give you a taste here and let you dive into, like, if you want to explore Suno more fully, find a few other AI creators that have talked about how to get the most out of it. So right now I'm in this creator stage. They have a whole area where you can listen to other people's songs and stuff. But right here, I'm actually using the template I gave that used to create that song we just listened to for Psalm 18. And here you can see all the scripture that I've loaded into the lyrics. And then it gives you a little space where you could put the style of the music. You can even have another extra space to exclude styles. I haven't even played with that part yet. And in this one, I just wanted this like trap rap style male vocals and a fairly fast rhythm. Because again, it's workout music. I wanted it to be a little faster and a little bit more, I don't know, to flow quickly if I'm running or lifting weights or something, and then a title for it. They also have this one feature that I kind of used off and on called Persona, where you can pull in one of your songs, and it will continue to pull like the sound of the vocals, so that like the same singer can be you can have a similar sounding singer or rapper like throughout your other ones. But I had a few different voices in mind, so sometimes I pulled from this one song particularly to be across the different songs, and it's really good. Here I can just recreate it, and every time you push create, it gives you running into an error. Come on. Show me some songs. It's so fast at generating songs. Like, it actually starts giving you a preview of the first 30 seconds within maybe 30. Oh, see, it's even done already. I could start listening to it. Sometimes it sounds horrible, but oftentimes I'm amazed at how good it sounds on the first try. I will usually, for each song, I have 8 different tracks on this album. I probably had to produce about 10 to 15 different tracks and listen to them and say yes, no, and try to like figure out what I needed to do in the prompt in order to make it better. Some lessons that I've learned about Suno that I've gotten better at over time. See, at this first one, I actually was just throwing into the lyrics just as they were. And I found out you can actually inject prompts into Suno through the lyrics portion by giving it a little bit more direction in brackets. Kind of like code, right? If you've ever written code, you know there's like these curly bars. Oh, let me get that in there. You can get brackets in here. Let me show you one where I've done this. By the time I was getting to some of the last tracks, I was actually giving it more instruction and like, hey, this first opening line, make this spoken word. Then in verse 1, make it trap rap. Verse 2, trap rap. And when you get to this section, go ahead and make this the chorus, but sing it. And then move back to the trap rap in verse 3, trap rap, and then chorus again, right? So I was giving it more direction. You can kind of use the brackets to insert prompts right into the music so that it can get a little bit more sense of what you want. I did find that in most cases when you're prompting AI, you can like refine it, and get closer and closer with each try. I did find that prompting Suno with music was much more squirrely. The AI would go all over the place, but still it sounded pretty good most of the time. But sometimes you had a specific thing that you wanted. I'm not a musician. I imagine if you're a musician and have any kind of sense of music, you will be able to give it clearer instruction of what you want and how you want it. I had to Google and look up a ton of different YouTube videos on even to get to this point of figuring out what I wanted. I didn't even know what trap was, even though I knew what I wanted it to sound like and what style I wanted. I didn't know what the language was for it because I'm just not a huge audiophile. I know a lot more about like vocals on podcasts and what that sounds like because I'm a podcaster. But as far as music goes, I like to listen to it. I just don't know much about it. So if you know anything about music, it's going to go a lot farther because your prompts will be more tight and more specific. But if you're like me, like even just giving some swings to it, it'll guess and come up with different styles for you, and then you can just refine it and learn more as you go. I found the whole process to just be really fun to dig into because I've never had to dig into this before, and it's just really fun. There's also a button for instrumental if you don't want any lyrics, which I think will be helpful for some of the use cases I'll share at the end of the episode. So I went through the process, and it honestly took a long time to get to 8 tracks. I probably spent on my phone. They have a nice little iPhone app. In between some early mornings working on this project, I probably put a good 8-10 hours into coming up with these and working them and reworking them and learning about it. I imagine it will be a lot faster the next time I put out a different album, which I'll talk more about in a bit. But it did take me a while to get up to 8 tracks that were like listen worthy, that I actually liked listening to over and over again. So that was the Suno part. But once you get the song, you're not done yet. Because just because you have a group of songs, that's not the full album, right? You got to get some album art. And I was like, oh gosh, like how can I use AI to kick some album art? I am a graphic designer, so that makes it a little bit easier. But here's the process I took. Because I wanted the album to be called Psalter, which is kind of like an old way. A Psalter is like an old collection of songs to be read or to be sung. It kind of comes out of it feels like it comes out of the medieval ages. I actually don't know when that word became a thing. But because I had this like medieval thing in my mind, I went looking on Pinterest for styles of black letter design, and black letter is the type of font that's like that medieval Gothic, styled writing that you find in old Bibles and anything medieval, right? It's got that like black letter look to it. And I looked across this, and this is actually, I found this design work. I didn't copy it, but I kind of took inspiration from this Kingslayer modern black font. I think this is actually an advertisement for this black letter design called Kingslayer. And I didn't use this one. I just did a Google search for black letter, Google font black letter. And then I discovered this free font called Unifractor Cook. Horrible name. But you could see here's the style of the black letter if you're looking at it. And the cool thing about Google fonts is if you're not a designer, you can actually put the word that you want into it to preview it. So here I put Psalter and I'm like, ooh, that looks good. So but that's not enough. Even though that's the word I wanted on the name, the album cover name, I needed more of a design. And so I took some more inspiration from this Kingslayer, and they had it a white lettered black letter. I know it's called black letter, but they did it in the lettering in white. And then they had this like almost old school painting behind it that was like really like desaturated, no color, is all black and gray, and it was like really dark, like you can barely even tell. It just adds more of a texture to it than anything. So I went looking for an old painting that I had seen in a museum once from the Bible where Joshua is calling up to God and saying, God, we need to win this battle, but we're losing daylight, like hold the sun and the sky. If you went to Sunday school, you probably heard this story. If not, then it's a story in the Bible. And God held the sun in the sky for like a full 24 hours or something like that. And they continued to win, and Israel won the battle. So that's the story. Someone painted a really epic picture of this. So I took, because this picture is really old, the painting, this painting has been public domain, so I used that for the art. Brought that into Photoshop, and then just did the work of using Photoshop to desaturate it, darken it a lot so that it looked like that inspiration I had. Put the Psalter font on it, and then added another font that with some bright orange to kind of give it a little bit of color, since it's like white letters on a really dark desaturated painting. Is to say Psalter workout music, right? So now I have the album art and it's looking good. But like you can't just release it as music, and I've already published it. I found out you can't release music on a podcast because Spotify will kick you out, because it'll be like, this isn't a podcast, this is music. I was gonna create a podcast for this, like I did with that other AI-driven podcast I did a few months ago. But I got kicked off because it's music and you have to submit music through a different rate. So I luckily CD Baby, you can release an album for like $10. So I put it out there. Hopefully it'll be out in a few weeks. It takes a little bit of time to walk through the approval process. So we'll see if I get there. In the meantime, I put it up on YouTube like you just saw and listened to at the beginning of this episode. But it's not enough. I don't like static art and music. I like it if there's just a little bit of motion. So I'm like, ooh, how do I get a little bit of motion into this album art in order to create one video and just kind of use it across all the different videos I upload to YouTube? I'm like, haha, this is a great time to actually explore AI video because I've done almost nothing with AI video, like nothing. And a lot of people have asked me about it. I don't really have any experience for it because there's so much to learn in just the text part. So I'm like, well, let's use this project to do a little bit with Runway, which is kind of the top performing AI video thing right now, right? AI generator, because Sora hasn't been released yet for ChatGPT, and that's fine. When it does, I'm sure it'll be awesome. So what I did for Runway, and I just used a free account. I don't even have a paid account. I do have a paid account for Suno. Highly recommend that because their V4 is much better than V3, which is what you get with the free account. But for Runway, I just used their free account and uploaded that same painting and generated some video files with it. So if you take a look at my first generations, I gave it no prompt. I literally just uploaded the painting and said go. And if you're looking at the screen, you can see the results are a little lackluster. It's just kind of warbly. It doesn't really know what to do with the painting. It looks horrible. And I gave it another shot, and this one was slightly better as the video pans, but then it starts like the landscape just starts getting distorted in the painting. It doesn't look good. But if you start giving it a prompt and give it a sense for what to do, this next shot, you're like, ooh, it's just like almost like a drone shot panning over the battlefield. And you start to see these armies come out from the distance. And that's kind of cool. But the problem with this drone shot, it only gives you these 10-second little videos. And I'm like, oh, I can't just put this on a loop. Because it just restarts at the same drone spot over and over again. And I didn't really know how to get it to like boomerang go back and forth. So I ended up with this last video that I got out of it where the camera is static and it just becomes, I asked it to create a time lapse of the battle and of the clouds in the sky. So then I ended up on this one. And then this way I could loop it throughout the whole video because it's kind of more consistent, even though you can tell where the loop is. It looks more reasonable. So with this 10-second video, I now have a little bit of a animation and emotion. And look at that. I mean, they kind of, instead of a war, it looks like they're dancing a little bit more. But you know what? It was close enough. It gives me the animation in the clouds. There's some movement going down here in the battle. It's pretty good. Considering I'm going to change this and recolorize it to look more like the album art, I went with this. I downloaded it. Again, it was free. I was amazed what I was able to get for free because this is really useful. I then took it into CapCut and then took some of my design elements, right, like the logo, dropped the music in, and then I duplicated that 10-second clip over and over again to just create a loop of it. So it would just keep repeating the same video over and over and over again. Again, I did the same, took the same elements of desaturating it and darkening it dramatically, and then dropping in the lettering of Psalter workout music on the top so that the background, that video just becomes a bit of like motion texture in the background of the video. So that's how I did it. All the different steps combined of finding the lyrics, uploading it to Suno, and working through the process of engineering the prompt to get the music that you want, working through getting some inspiration for the album art, going ahead and finding free fonts and open domain paintings and using Photoshop to bring it all together into one piece, then using runwayml.com in order to animate a little bit of it, taking it into CapCut to clean it up and actually create the video so that I can actually upload this whole album and a whole playlist of a album to YouTube and soon to be on all the different music apps out there. So that's how I got Psalter into the world. I am now I can't call myself a musician, but I'm publishing music. Really weird thing, but this is I felt more creative walking through this process than I have felt in a long time. I feel like those who say that AI destroys creativity haven't really tried using AI to come up with something themselves yet. This has made me feel so creative. And maybe it's because I'm a generalist and I kind of know how to do a lot of these things across the board. I can now dabble in ways that I've never felt I could dabble before. And now I'm like, dang, like I can actually start doing music projects. I wonder how that can impact my video. I wonder how that can impact other creative endeavors. But enough about in creative endeavors. Let's get to that last part. How is this actually useful for marketing? Remember at the beginning of this podcast, I talked about how all marketers know we don't sell through logic. Oftentimes we sell through emotion. We at least get people to take baby steps based on emotion. And what's more emotional than music? So there's a lot of different ways we can use music in order to bring emotion and feeling back into our marketing. Some simple ways is to just use it to create background music instead of going to stock music files for your YouTube videos and your podcast. You could just create original scores with AI. So think about how I'm going to start doing this for AI-driven marketer. I'm going to try to figure out how to come up with some background music and some transition songs just for my own podcast now using Suno. Maybe even for YouTube, I might have a different soundtrack for it. So we'll figure that out. So it's good for background music. And of course, marketers have been using AI to come up with jingles all the time, right? Like that was a really popular thing in the Mad Men era of coming up with marketing jingles. And I still think that applies today. It's still something we see in radio work, YouTube, that have different sign outs and different slogans set to music. And I think that's still something that's possible with Suno. But what I'm really excited about, what I really think this opens up for us is to come up with how to incorporate music as original content for our content marketing efforts. This is something that I'm really excited about. My next project, I'm going to try to hit in this vein, and I'm going to come up with an album directed purely for marketers. Because have you ever heard music just for marketers? If you have, it's kind of like a funny take or it's something comical. And I still think there's a lot of room for that. But I want to come up with something more serious that I think will attract marketers and use it as like a personal branding thing to put out an album for marketers, but also use it to showcase what AI is capable of, like I did with Psalter. And I think a lot of people can be doing this. And I think cutting edge content marketers, and I've seen a few of these out there where they're using music to come up with little tracks or diss tracks or product announcements. And instead of just releasing a product announcement and telling them what the new features and benefits are, what if you created a rap about it? What if you created a music holiday jingle? We're almost at Christmas time about your product. It's just more fun to consume. So I think us as marketers, especially content marketers, now can put music into our tool belt as a way to enhance our marketing. I can imagine you can mix and match music into all different places within our content marketing, from our product marketing to top of the funnel, and especially our social media marketing. I think there's a lot of room for play here that I'm going to be exploring over the next year. So this is just drop one for me. So stay tuned, because this is just a preview of what's to come for people like me and maybe yourself. So Suno is a very cheap tool. It's like that, like a lot of AI tools. It's kind of like a $20 a month type of thing. But I think the value we can get out of a tool like this one can go really far. So thanks for following along with me on this podcast. Again, if you want to listen to this full album, I'll drop a link to the YouTube playlist. And if you're not subscribed to my newsletter yet, please take a look. It's at AIDrivenMarketer.com, and the sign up list is right at the top of the page. But sign up if you want to separate the help from all the AI hype out there and want to grow your AI skills faster.